Hi, welcome or welcome back to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea and this is my weekend review. It is Sunday, December 8th. I had to look at the date. It's been a bit of a crazy, busy, long week, and I haven't done as much reading as I would have liked to do. So bear with me as I catch up with you about what it is that I'm reading, not reading, wanting to read, about to start reading. I am drinking some spearmint tea, and I have this little thrifted mug I found at a community yard sale earlier. It's the Nutcracker Christmas. It's tiny. It doesn't look as tiny on the screen, but it's like a tiny little mug. Okay, so highs and lows. I think a high has just been friends in real life friendship. This week I had a friend drop off a surprise chocolate chip gluten-free vegan loaf at my doorstep this week, and that made my week. It was a random act of kindness. I had no idea she was baking, had no idea she was coming. I get home and she timed it perfectly. Like, she dropped it off just before I got home and found it and loved it, ate it, was so excited about it. People don't usually bake for me because I'm vegan and gluten-free, and it's overwhelming and it's daunting and it's hard to do. So I really appreciated it because I know how complicated it can be to do that. And then I had an old friend, somebody I went to high school with, reach out and invite me to lunch today, and they baked me some cookies, some peanut butter vegan gluten-free cookies, and they were so good. Oh my gosh, I could just eat peanut butter like this. It was just so good. Those random acts of kindness and time with friends, like unexpected time with friends, these were things that were just like, hey, do you want to have lunch? Like, you know, spontaneously, and just coming home and finding a loaf of bread at my doorstep. Like, it was just not planned, surprising, and nice. I love stuff like that. I love spontaneous random acts of kindness. Lows. Maybe just the pace of the week. It just was busy, and the week itself, just the way it played out, didn't give me very much time to read. Although I did get some reading time in this weekend, but just felt like there's just too much. Too much. I'm purposely trying not to schedule too much, but it just is that way. I don't know if it's just me or if it's just the holidays in general for everybody. Does it get to feel too much? Definitely gets to feel too much sometimes. So I think that feeling of everything is just too much. Like too busy, too crazy, too loud, too fast. It's just a lot. So I don't know. Do you know what I mean? If you do, just drop a comment. I'd love to know that it's not just me, and it's just part of like getting through the holidays. I think sometimes you just have to really be intentional about carving some time to slow down and take a breath and enjoy. I keep telling myself, like, just gotta sit and take a breath and enjoy. Like, my husband keeps telling me, just need to rest. Just take some time to do nothing. Just rest. So I think going forward, things will hopefully start to change a little bit now that like Christmas tree is up. A lot has been done. I don't know. Hopefully I'll get to just enjoy the rest of the month in a much better way. Community posts. I haven't posted anything. There's so much I want to post. I owe recipes to post. I have stuff I need to post about. I'm probably going to try to post something tonight before I go to sleep. But yeah, I've been slacking with the posts. I'm so sorry. Tags. I did a 10 before the end video and I called it like a bit of a delusional December TBR. And that kind of felt more like a tag because I saw Ellen do it at Ellen Made Book Club. She did hers and I loved it. And I'd been seeing other people do it. Like I saw Angelia at Read and Reread do it a few weeks back. And so many other friends here on BookTube have done it. And it's not a tag, but I kind of tagged myself when I watched Ellen's video. And so I just did it. 10 books I would love to be able to read before the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. There's there's a lot going on this month, these next couple of weeks. So I don't know about that video, but just for the fun of being delusional and being an overachiever with my reading. So books I read. I read this book. I finished it a few weeks ago, and I think I mentioned that I'd finished it, but I hadn't talked about it because it was part of a reading group and we hadn't talked about it. And we've been talking about it this weekend, and it's been such a fun part of the weekend. I spent the day in Brownsville yesterday, and I kept seeing messages pop up on my Voxer account from this group, and I just wanted to be in on the conversation, but I kept telling myself, no, you gotta be present, you gotta be in the here and now, you gotta be with people in your real life. So, I didn't get to respond till late in the day after probably everybody had gone to sleep, but, yeah, we've been enjoying our discussion of Fredrik Piñeiro's El Tiempo de las Moscas, Time of the Flies. A couple of us read this in Spanish, and then everybody else read it in English. So, you could see like all these tabs. These are all just notes from conversations on Voxer. Like if somebody said something, then I was like, let me see about that, and then I'd go and I check things out, things I wanted to share. The front part is more tapped in the back because the last part of the book is more plotty. The first half of the book, there's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of like setting up what is happening and the time and the changes and the shifts from the first novel. So Time of the Flies, El Tiempo de las Moscas is a sequel to Elena Piñeiro's All Yours, Tuya, in Spanish. And in Tuya, we meet Ernesto and Inés and their daughter Laura. They call her Lali. And the story centers mostly around this family. And Inés and Ernesto are in an unhappy marriage where they're polite to each other, cordial, getting through day to day. Inés wishing there was more affection and more intimacy in the relationship, and Ernesto having an affair. And Inés discovers the affair, and chaos ensues. I'll leave it at that because I do think everybody should read Tuya because it's a lot of fun. It's very fast paced. So once Inés discovers the affair, everything just kind of just blows up, and there is just a lot happening. Laura, their daughter Lali, is on her own dealing with a teenage pregnancy and trying to figure out on her own what to do about it. And her parents never notice she's pregnant, and she's considering an abortion. She's talking to people. A lot of Lali's chapters are like dialogue and conversation with friends, strangers, because she ends up getting more help from strangers in her situation than from her parents. And so at the end of Tuya, Ernesto and Inés have to face the consequences of their crimes. They've engaged in a series of crimes, and they have some jail time to do. So this novel picks up, I think 15 or 16 years after Inés's Inés has been sentenced. So Inés is released from the women's prison in Argentina, and is at the beginning of the introduction of this book. She's coming out of prison. There's no one there to meet her, and she's has a friend that she met in prison, and she's going to reconnect with this friend and see what's next for her on the horizon. And she comments on how much Argentina has changed. Women in Argentina have changed. Feminism has changed. Women's rights have changed. And the men have not. The patriarchy hasn't changed, but the women and the society has changed. And so she's trying to find her place in it as a woman just coming out of prison, as a divorced woman, because while she was in prison, her divorce concluded, and her the couple's assets were distributed. So she's trying to figure out what are her rights and where is her place now as a divorcee and as a recently incarcerated woman. So as then the plot continues, we find out she and her friend La Manca. La Manca is a nickname because she is disabled. She has like a loss of her hand, so she has body loss and lost a limb, and so in Spanish there's actually a phrase for someone that's lost a limb, and so a hand, and so it is La Manca. So she owns it. She owns her new, like her disability, her loss of this hand, and her name, just her, like the way she carries herself, she is La Manca, and she is a woman without a hand. And she is so endearing and funny, and she really, really, really carries Inés and the novel and the plot in such a fun way. She's really special to this plot. And so Inés gets invited to contribute as a person who deals with poisons. So Inés becomes a pest control entrepreneur. So she has her palliative pest control business where she brings about gentle, environmentally friendly solutions to control intruders, animal intruders, and meet somebody that has a revenge plot, that wants to take care of something, kill a human, and ask for a poison that will help them do that. Inés is struggling with what does this mean for her? Doesn't she help this woman who's trying to take revenge but doesn't know the full story? And what she knows, she's been told, is that this woman is trying to take revenge on another woman. And Inés believes that this is because of an affair, and it sounds like this woman has researched Inés and her background, and she finds maybe a little bit of like connection with this woman that's trying to take on this revenge. And the story goes from there. So there's a lot of discussion about feminism, about a woman's place in society, about motherhood, about what it means to be a mother, what it means to be somebody who refuses to mother, does not want to mother, what it means for women in prison, incarcerated, with criminal backgrounds, what opportunities are there for them, and this whole revenge plot is layered with the tale of Medea by Euripides. There's a Greek chorus in this novel that is the background to Inez's thoughts as she is trying to sort out her identity, her actions, what she wants to do, what she doesn't want to do, the risk she wants to take, what is right, what is wrong, what is moral, what is just. Like all of these philosophical questions that Inez is exploring, the Greek chorus is singing to her, and just moving the plot along. So I really enjoyed it. I really, really love this book. If you can't tell, I really, really love this book. I think it's a great book to read. I do recommend reading Tuya before, just so that you really get to see the change in the shifts in the story. The way Inez is portrayed as a character, it changes and shifts dramatically, but it also shifts and changes because the author wrote this book 15 or 16 years after she wrote Tuya. So the author has evolved, the character has evolved because the author has just grown as a person and has, another path to taking us down. So it just is really fun, really neat to see the story unfold in a different way. And I loved it. And I especially have loved just the group. The discussion with the group has been amazing. It's been so much fun. It's been very thoughtful, very thought-provoking. I'm so grateful to be a part of this Piñeiro Project. And I'm looking forward to starting Thursday night Widows, Las Viudas de los Jueves this week. Current read. So I am also still currently reading Season of the Swamp by Yuri Herrera, translated by Lisa Dillman. So I read some of this earlier today. I'm halfway through. It's a short novel and it's taking me longer than it needs to, but I guess I'm really taking my time with it because I'm thinking a lot as I'm reading this. It's a historical fiction set in the 1800s. And honestly, today, what I was thinking as I was reading today was, I think I'm struggling because I feel like I'm not finding that the language fits the time period, or at least what I would have expected. And I don't know if it's a translation or if it's just that Yuri Herrera is telling the story through the language of modernity. Like, I don't know. I guess I was expecting it to sound different, and it sounds like the way that the dialogue, the story is told, it sounds very contemporary. It sounds of the time now, not of the 1800s. So I feel like I'm having a hard time because I'm reading it and I'm thinking, wait, this is the 1800s. Would they say this then? Like, has nothing really changed? Because politically, it feels like, and this is a political book. This is the story, I've mentioned this before, this is the story of Benito Juarez. I hope I'm not being redundant here. The story of Benito Juarez in the 18 months that he was in New Orleans. And he had been exiled from Mexico, and this is before Benito Juarez will eventually return to Mexico and become the first indigenous president of Mexico. But before then, he's in New Orleans for 18 months, and there's very little history about what happened to Benito Juarez while he was in New Orleans during those months. So Yuri Herrera fills in the gaps and imagines what must have been happening, who was Benito Juarez dealing with in planning his return to Mexico, and what was going on historically at the time in Mexico, in the United States of America, and worldwide, the Spanish, the French, like what was happening in the world at the time. And so there's a lot here. And I'm feeling like politically there's a lot of politics in all of this, like wars being fought, colonization, revolutions, like all of this time is very rich in revolution and change. And so I just kind of feel like some of the patterns of political life are still some of what we're seeing now. with political parties and just politics. Like, so I wanted to read this to help me cope with the election. And I still think it's a good read for me. I like being engaged politically, and I like learning from history and feeling like, okay, this is not unique to the time. Like, other people have dealt with difficult political situations, and here we are, right? We've grown from it, but sometimes it just feels like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Anyway, so that's Season of the Swamp. I'm still pressing on. I'm enjoying the story. I like that Yuri Herrera wrote this book. I like that he's imagining what that was like for Benito Juarez. I like Benito as a character. I'm learning things about him that I didn't know, and he's becoming more of like a three-dimensional person. You know, he's oftentimes just kind of glorified as a president of Mexico that was very progressive and did a lot. But I think he was also human, and I think Yuri Herrera is really like showing us more of that, like a more layered Benito Juarez and the history. There's so much history. There's so much history, and it's such a tiny little book, and it's really, really interesting. I can't wait to finish this and have better thoughts to share with you. I'm still reading Les Mis. My book is over there. I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm going back and forth. I'm really excited. I'm hoping to finish that by the end of the year. I'm reading this with Melinda out of What the Stories and people on her Discord, but I haven't been active on the Discord. I'm also still reading Guilt and Ginataan, and that book is in another room because I have books all over my house, and wherever I'm at, that's the book I'm picking up. I have Beartown as an audiobook, and my Antonia is in another room, and that one is a reread with Melinda at What the Stories and her Discord channel. I haven't DNF'd any books. In terms of community, I've been really active with the Piñeiro Project with Time of the Flies, El Tiempo de las Moscas. I am participating on the Discord with the reading group, The Ghosts of Christmas Past. And this is hosted by Ben at Revenant Reader and other co-hosts. Mark at Book Time with Elvis has been reading The Old Nurse's Story by Elizabeth Gaskell on his channel. I only caught the first one. I haven't gone to catch up on the rest. I was trying to read it before I listened to the audio, and I haven't finished it. And other like ghost stories. So we're trying to read ghost stories for the Christmas season and kind of relive or retake that tradition, that Victorian tradition of reading Christmas stories out loud. I love that. I love reading aloud. And I think it's such a beautiful Victorian tradition. And I mean, I think it's done in other cultures as well, but I love what we know about the Victorian culture and the Victorian tradition. So I'm really happy to be a part of that group. And I have a collection of books here that I have on my shelf that I'm wanting to read. Typically in this month of December, I usually read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So this is like yearly tradition. And I have this collection of Christmas stories, the Everyman's Pocket Classics. And this is a bunch of short stories. I usually read a couple of short stories a year from here around the holidays. So I'm going to go through it and see if there are any that sound like ghost stories particularly. I'm sorry, I think this is the one I read last year, and I'm probably maybe going to try to read it again. The Story of the Goblins Who Stole a Sexton from the Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens. I'm going to see which others might be ghostly. But there's so many good ones in here. have Ghosts by Edith Wharton. This is a collection of short stories. I'm really curious to read Edith Wharton's short stories, so these are all about ghosts. So this is on my reading basket for the holidays. I have a basket of seasonal reads in my living room, and I usually read from those books seasonally. So I have this one. This is the Penguin Book of Christmas Stories from Hans Christian Andersen to Angela Carter, edited by Jessica Harrison. So this one says, bring out the tall tales now that we told by the fire as a gaslight bubble. This is a collection of the most magical, moving, chilling, and surprising Christmas stories from around the world, taking us from frozen Nordic woods to glittering Paris, a New York speakeasy to an English country house, bustling Lagos to midnight mass in Rio, and even outer space. Here are the classic tales from writers including Truman Capote, Shirley Jackson, Dylan Thomas, Saki, and Chekhov, as well as little-known treasures such as Italo Calvino's Wry, Sideways Look at Christmas Consumerism, Wolf Dietrich's Schnurrs, I'm not sure how to say that, the story of festive ingenuity in Berlin, Selma Lagerlof's Enchanted Forest in Sweden, and Irene Nemirovsky's Dark Family Portrait, featuring Santas, ghosts, trolls, unexpected guests, curmudgeons, and miracles. Here is a Christmas as imagined by some of the greatest short story writers of all time. So, I will be reading some books from this collection throughout the month. Not some books, some stories from that collection. And I mentioned Melinda at Web Stories. I'm reading my Antonia with her and the Discord, and I'm also reading Les Mis with them. For a podcast that I can recommend, I've been really into a Strong Sense of Place podcast this week. I've been reading, I've been picking out reads from their podcast, so I would recommend if you're looking for books that are rich in a strong sense of place. They have really great recommendations, and their episodes are really fun to listen to. I have some queued up that I'm planning to get to. I think the last one that I listened to was one from October, and it was about cemeteries, because I was looking for ghost stories for the Ghosts of Christmas Past. So I was listening to their episode on cemeteries. And they had some really interesting recommendations for books about ghosts and death and dying and, cemeteries, end of life. It was really, really interesting. For a recipe, I'm gonna skip sharing a recipe this week. I haven't done very much cooking or baking this week. I will be doing some baking this coming week, so maybe I have a couple of recipes in mind to try this week, so I'll see which one I get to share with you next week. And that is all for my week in review. What I'm looking forward to is, after I finish this, I want to share an announcement video with you. Hopefully I'll get to record that in a little bit. And then I also am looking forward to the start of Guadalupe Reinas, and I am going to film a video. I'd like to film a video about Guadalupe Reinas and my TBR for that event. And so stay tuned, and we'll talk again soon. Hasta la próxima.